name is Melati Suryodarmo. I was born in Surakarta 57 years ago. It is located in central Java, Indonesia. I was born as a daughter of dancers. I'm used to this world, dance and spirituality, since I was a child. We were practicing, Javanese spirituality since I was a kid. I joined Javanese meditations. I did Tai Chi since I was young, and I was very early introduced to Buto when I think I was 12. Of course, besides like many other kids, we learned Javanese traditional dance, but I was lucky that my teacher was Bapak Ngaliman Condro Pengerawit, one of the dance master from Solo, who taught her children to learn Javanese dance, but hidden, because he was still convicted as followers of the Communist Party, so he was not allowed to be active in the public. From there, I learned a lot how Javanese dance actually quite, selecting bodies. At that time, I felt always discriminated because I have a body that doesn't look like a puppet shadow. Of course, I have a lot of different constructions, and other girls' body was very skinny. I was not oversized, but I was strong. Then my teacher gave me the role of soft male dance with mask. And then, but as a girl, I really was desperate to dance female dance. And then he always said, no, you are too big. I was like, I'm not too big. but according to Javanese body standard, of course, I was probably slightly too big or too strong characteristic, and not, very soft, a girl. And so since I was young, I was a bit rebellious, and that's how my parents also educated me to be brave and not to be afraid with the world. I studied in the university in Bandung. I studied international politics and international relations. But there I joined for the first time experimental performances with artists from Bandung. And the first time I was introduced about performance art when I saw the documentations of Joseph Beuys' I Like America, America Likes Me. It was screened at the Goethe Institute in Bandung in, I think, 1990s. And that has kept me thinking about what is performing, what is body, what is object, what is time, and that it was anyhow that kind of art form is existing. So because it was not really existing in Indonesia, they call it performance art in Indonesia, but it was more like a protest art against the military regime that time, military regime of Suharto. So I was joining also the student activism that we went protest to the streets and such thing like that against the military. They're collaborating with theater a lot, dancers, and visual art. And so after I studied, I finished the degree in political science, international politics science. I moved to Germany and was looking for a new life and also looking for a place to study politics, which was a little bit difficult because I studied mostly Asian international politics, and in Germany they have a different program on political studies. I met Anju Furukawa at the botanical garden. I sat there because a lot of tropical plants there, and then she sat there next to me on a bench in the park, and we started a conversation. I actually started the conversation because I was an Asian woman also here, and then I asked her, what are you doing? And then she said, I'm a professor at the art school here, at the HBK. And then I asked her, "What are you teaching?" And then she said, "I'm teaching a performance art, but I'm a Buto choreographer." And I said, "Oh, Buto, I know Buto." Then I told my experience. I was traveling with my father's group in Japan in 1992, and so what are you doing here? I said, "I don't know. I want to study, but I don't know what to study." And then she opened her cat 80s cat Ray-Ban glasses, and she looked at me from down to the, "Okay, come to my class on Monday." Then, "Oh, may I join?" Yes. So then that's the first time I entered the school to her class. Our encounters was essentially has changed my life a lot. Actually, she is the one who inspired me to become an artist, and the first person who really trusted that you can do it, you know. Strong influence to me how actually I also can connect with my inner world, because Buto technique is very much about the interiority, the inner world, and how we make a dialogue within our presence and all the memories that is contained in the body, including the trauma, including the pain, memory of pain, but also happiness and light, you know, not only the negative and the vulnerability. And that was, I think, very important, because if you create something with body, then we begin from ourselves, not from others' body, and to objectify other bodies, you know, then you need to see yourself as a subject, but also at the same time, of course, as an object, because you investigate life through our body. Then 1997, Anshu left, and then my other teacher came, which is Marina Abramovich. And then so the first time she came the class, she had to select, I think, 20 out of 80 or 85 students from the school. And so she asked everyone, "So why do you want to be in my class?" And then she asked me. So I think, I don't know you, I was so naive. I did not follow performance art that much in that direction. So I was more like still in the John Cage style, happening art and so, but I did not come to Marina Abramovich yet, you know. Then she said, "Yeah, you don't know me, it's better, you don't know me." And then I said, "What, but why you want to be in my class?" Because I said, "I have to finish my study." And that was the first time I know Marina Abramovich. And when I saw her, then she make a lecture, I saw her practice. Oh, it looks very interesting, which is totally different than Buto. Then I was also wondering, how can I transfer this together into that direction? And Marina works differently, of course, and more conceptual, strictly conceptual, with Western aesthetic. And from the school, I of course learned about Western philosophies and all the history of aesthetic and thinking. And I thought that time, I'm so interested to understand the way how at least the German think, because I want to be equal. I did not feel discriminated in Germany, but in a way I automatically discriminated because I felt I did not belong to the way of thinking they think. So I wanted to learn the way the German think and what influenced the art and artists in Germany or the people in the culture sections, what history of aesthetic they have been through in the theater, in the dance, in the visual art, in the performance art. Since early of my years making art, that I was strongly against the notion of exoticism, of exotic, because exotic as a notion appeared during the colonial time, and that's how people see us different. And exotic is something that is discriminating and it has a long history. It has a long history of, for example, scientifically also being strengthened by, for example, the human zoo as a fact. You know how people were put in the zoo as a study object of human. You know, so this was totally wrong. Okay, it was not. I could not blame the scientists in Europe that time, of course not, and I could not blame the people, but we came on the light because of that too. Yeah, because the people want to see it in a certain case, and I felt if I don't make a statement through my work, then I will be differentiated, discriminated all the way, or as an Asian, as Indonesian, as Javanese, as brown skin, as a woman also. I thought discrimination appears because lack of knowledge, absolutely, lack of knowledge on humanity. And I think there is a cycles of between knowledge and also the wave of exploitation, and that's why colonialism was very long in Indonesia for 350 years, and so I begin to try to understand and track back what happened, what have I carried in my body as an artist who is using the body, and how can I make this as a ongoing resource of my work. But people misunderstood sometimes that if you talk about yourself, about your body, then it's a not so interesting art because you are not representing something. Then I asked about myself, about what can I represent? Shall I represent Indonesia? I cannot. I don't know I don't know much about Indonesia, I must say, because Indonesia is so big. It's not only Javanese, it's also Papua, it's also Sulawesi culture, it's Balinese culture, it's Flores culture, it's Sumatra culture. It's Sumatra even very big with a totally different cultures. You know, even in Java also we have different cultures. How can I be representative of my culture? I will only disappoint people, you know. So and then, but in my country, I was raised to be representative of my culture. If someone from Indonesia go abroad, if you go abroad to the foreign country, you must be a good representative of your culture. So behave correctly. And then I said, wow, so much burden, you know, so much burden as a person like me who is seeking for survival of life, and then have to carry these all burdens, and in the name of culture and art. And I said, no, I'm against this. I don't like this kind of specification. Like, well, it's unavoidable that I'm Indonesian. My passport is Indonesian passport, but to represent culture as a whole is a bit too much, you know. And it's been used, of course, in Biennale, in international exhibitions, in international events, yeah, or presentations, which I think in some part is good, because if you see like region, Indonesian or Singapore or Southeast Asia, then you see, oh, that's different than our practice. That means they have a different way of creating, different history of aesthetic, different philosophy, and so on. If they are good, if they are not, they're just using, you know, reputations to represent artists outside Europe, then they will be disappointed, because the knowledge of the people in Germany, for example, understand about Indonesia is Bali, you know, the beautiful dances, traditional dance, and colorful and nice music. And when I come with butter dance, they were all disappointed, of course. You know, my butter dance, that's why it was very important for me, because it's not just against my inherited representative, but it's a reality. It's my reality that probably has met many reality of women in the world, and many people's reality. You know, that was a very simple work that based on basically using butter, blocks of butter, and red high heels, tight black dress, and I danced, you know. And then I fell down, and then I stood up, I fell down, just one action repetitively for about 15 to 20 minutes. I felt, I was convinced to use body as the main medium in my practice. So when I was in Germany, still in Germany, I think I was more or less trapped into this mechanism of production, producing art for art's sake, producing art for like also a little bit getting the possibility to express my thinking process. But of course, it was a struggle to survive with the art, especially performance art, that it was in the 90s when everyone was saying performance art is dead. You know, it's just a history, and people laugh about, oh, why are you doing performance art, and like something like that. I think the 90s in Germany was for me very influencing decade for me to create art and to understand what is the contact within the socialism, within the new Europe, and the changes, political changes, and especially I asked about the notion of freedom. So for me it was interesting to witness the changes in the politics and also in the socio-cultural aspect of the people. Understanding the history of the First World War, the Second World War, and all the influences into the art and aesthetic, their aesthetic in Europe, I felt always left behind as Indonesian. I also question about the position, the terms of contemporary art. For whom is it directed? What is the standard of contemporary art? In Europe, we know, okay, there's a zeitgeist, there is, you know, like, it's about our contemporary world and about representation of time, the spirit of time. But in Indonesia, it's different. Contemporary art means to have a practice of Western contemporary practice. But that's what we learn at school, the standard of, you know, what is conceptual thinking. We think about, we have to read about Derrida, Deleuze, all these philosophers from Europe to understand the way of thinking and apply this into aesthetical practice. But we get lost. We get lost from our own soul and resources. And that's what I was worried about, that I was actually ongoing criticizing the practice of contemporary art practice itself. But I was already in the practice of, under the influence of the Western conceptual performance practice. But when I get back to Indonesia, I see myself helpless, you know. I felt the way I see the world also, the way I see my own country, my own people and traditions and culture, it was totally misled in a way. So for some years I felt lost a little bit, how to be with myself and my inheritance history. My practice in the beginning was like really like into minimalism and the tradition of repetition as a concept in doing performative action. And you know, like in the history of performance arts, especially from Marina Abramovic, you learn about endurance and then long durational performance, and it becomes like now a bit like a tradition of one kind of style of performance art is long durational performance art, which I enjoy very much, also not because of Marina, but also because of the interiority that is unpredictable, the unpredictable moment when it comes to a live performance. Then there is this liminality of the reality. So I like the liminal situation where I also don't know where to enter my interiority. Although the concept is clear, everything is prepared, but when I come into the live performance, I also try to surrender where I go. So the practice of my meditation is influencing this a lot. How to be surrender from the desire to show, and at the same time to be precise in what you're doing. I don't like to create art that is sensational. Like sensation is, for me, offering illusions. So I'm more, I believe more into unspoken language between human. So when the visitors and me and other performers in a space, that means that is the reality, that is what happened. I have planned so much things to do this, for example, this work in reality, but what happened is that is the absolute ultimate result, actually. And so how this, for example, in life, we have this negative space that never appear, for example. And how about if this negative space also then being projected or being presented in the work, then people will probably see it, people will probably don't see it. So the language that this kind I can only describe since I'm back to Indonesia and I found the word of rasa. So rasa is one of my very important notion in my practice, that is actually the capability of human to accumulate their intellectual capacity with their sensory. So everyone who sense or who come to a same space and same time within my performance and witness it, not necessarily participating, but witnessing it, and is able to catch what is there happening without any descriptions, with using any language, but this language of rasa, that the energy is being transferred and there is a exchange of energy indirectly without compromise, and also that the way people see is not according to what I'm doing only, but also according to their background, their own personal perspective, that opens up the door to accept, to receive or to refuse at the same time. Okay, this time I want to work with the power of yellow, for example. And why is yellow? You know, because this is influencing our mind to have this kind of feeling of transitions. Like yellow is always exists in the morning time and also almost dark. The last part, the last color is yellow actually, naturally, and then also like the color of balance and also transitions at the same time. I'm now interested into how this, you know, what is happiness? What does happiness mean for Indonesian, for Javanese people? What does happiness mean for people in Sulawesi? What is a well-being? what is our relationship with human, between human and with the nature and with the higher spirits, if it's God or others spirits. So songs for the House of Returning is I like the title. It's like a story itself. So I was interested after, like the last 4 years, I had the opportunity through a job also to investigate or research or observe our cultural heritage in Indonesia, especially the temples that exist in Sumatra and Java. So many cultural heritage in my country that gave me an inspiration of how that time our ancestors not only built this, but what this was functioning for, what kind of philosophy they bring up into this as a unity to place something special like this, and that ends, that is still existing until I don't know, 20 centuries, Then I thought, we are so fell apart in this case, because it is narrated like the history of artifacts that we found is re-narrated in a different way through the local people, of course, in different means, to protect them or to create a kind of a new narration, which is interesting, apart from the original history of the object itself. And then there were like British, Dutch, French scientists, archaeologists who also put a different kind of narration. And then during the Dutch colonialism, we were actually, they didn't create schools for us, so we were not educated as a growing, people, not like during the British colony, like in Malaysia or in Singapore, they built schools. But in Indonesia, the Dutch did not build schools. So we would tend to be uneducated forever and not knowing about ourselves too much. So we were torn apart mentally by the long terms of colonialism, that this is probably unforgivable, or it is okay, now we accept this, So I think because the past you cannot repeat, so then what to do now is to think in a new way of thinking, to relearn about what has happened and how we can find to see this inheritance as something that is empowering our present. So, Songs for the House of Returning is a work that I was taking different influence of human behavior between humans and nature and humans with the higher spirit. So it is the first work that I think I consciously involved the sense of spirituality. Especially in our dark time now, I consider the world now having since 10 years going down, like erosion of humanity, that makes me a little bit worried about the future. So I think this work is a platform, it's a kind of a platform that we offer people to reflect whatever they can reflect through the colors, through the movement, through the sound and voices and the actions that the performers are doing. We work on not choreography, but more I created a score that the performers can apply through their actions and movement and interaction with the object and with the space and among themselves, you know, as they like. So I give a lot of freedom for the dancers to create, how do you say, set of movement that we call a little choreography to be interpreted also by other participants. This is a kind of immersive space that will change through 11 performances, each time 3 hours, so in total it's like 33 hours. And the space will change, and probably we will change also every time we perform, that there is a kind of new development among us that we will probably consolidate or agree to create every time a kind of a progressive changes. Yeah, cutting the cloth for me is an action, a ritual action that I can offer or to the participants, and to sometimes maybe also for the public to join, just to, you know, like a symbolized action that for me it is important to how do you say, to engage our memories, especially, for example, like we have a very long colonial history that is quite traumatic maybe, but at the same time, as I said, we can also deal with the trauma. So we want to say goodbye, or we want to express the anger, or we want to, okay, this was one chapter or 100 chapter that we need to close or to cut or to separate or to continue. I offer this open to collectively change the space. Yeah. I have selected blankets, and then this white, this yellow circle painted on the floor, and some rocks, some stones, the ladder, and the tree branches, you know, as selected, minimally selected elements that represent the nature, but also not just a stone is for me, not just stones. So the stone that we carry from your Linderer must have carried a long, maybe million years to arrive here in the performance, and this stone connects with the whole energy that has grown in that space, that place, and maybe the history of Sweden is also recorded in that stone. So Javanese have this relationship with the nature. So young people, maybe now, new generation, has been detached from this thinking that stone is conserving memories of a place, for example, and so that's why we lost our sense of caring, because we are taught to just consider stone is an object, tree is an object. That's why also in my country a lot of catastrophe, because the tree is just a tree, you know, and whatever tree is tree, although it was like a palm oil tree, which is is damaging the characteristic of the soil a lot, but for palm oil industry, and then, you know, like illegal lodging, illegal mining of sand and so on that create a lot of disasters in my country, because everything is not treated as a holistic environment. It's just taking, exploitations of the nature without considering the damage they create. The use of my voice actually for me was a kind of a necessary. I began using voice or aware with voice presence since 2016 when I did my performance Eins und Eins, because it was about nausea, about nauseatic situation that people are condemned not to speak what they think or what to express their voice. So that was, and then I've experienced a kind of the inner voice that really, through my performance, that it should come really through my gut. What is the inner voice? How to transfer this out? How to without necessarily using a certain technique, like the people in the ancient time. There are many traditions in Indonesia that use lament or just a voice work to communicate with the nature. So there were women mostly who expressed this voice without language in the nature, to call the mountain, to call the sky, to call the rain, to say thank you to the water, this kind of thing. And this is very personal, actually. There is no certain technique, but collectively in certain culture or region, they have some kind of course, inherited process of doing this. It's like York, for example. York has a certain intonation, certain level of voice, different technique, and so on. But how did it come? I think also because communication with the nature. So then I found this interesting, like to use voice, like for example in the certain ritual, or just randomly, like a farmer being in the field alone and calling for the sky, and screaming, and or singing because of happiness in the nature. So that inner voice is very healing, I think.